Welcome to the Grand Review. This is the show that's all about movies and movie news. I'm your host, the man who can see you're sad on the inside, Garrett Ray. And joining me as always, it's the Sultan of Spooky Cinema himself, Andy Delia.
Thanks, Garrett.
How are we doing?
I will take that title with honor. Thank you.
I figured you would like
yes,
it. I spent the whole drive over here thinking about it.
That's awesome. Thank you.
It just goes to tell you, my brain operates really, really slowly. Well, how are we doing today, Andy?
We're doing good. How about yourself, Garrett?
I am in a surprisingly good mood, high spirited.
That's great.
Busy week, but got a lot of stuff done that project that I'll be able to share about later. But yeah, lots of cool stuff going on. Look, if you've never joined us on the show before, basically here's how this works. It is a movie review podcast where we talk about the spoiler-free review session right up front so you can know if this week's movie is something you might be interested in or not. Mm-hmm. And then we dive into spoilers. For those of you who have seen it or who don't care, we just dive into it, talk about it a little bit more in depth. And we try to, bring a little bit of information about the history of cinema and the tools that are used and how they're used in the film that we just watched.
Right.
And so yeah, it's a fun time. Also, we get kind of completely caught off guard by Nicolas Cage almost every episode. I don't know how it keeps happening.
In G-Force.
Yes, in G-Force. Thank you. Getting out of the way early, are you?
Yeah, because I know it'll come back around again.
I'll get you.
Yeah, I know.
So this week we are talking about the sequel to, I guess, what was a blockbuster sort of hit.
Yeah, actually it was. It was a pretty big hit.
So this week we're talking about a movie that basically is the story of an ungrateful young woman who hates happiness and refuses to let anyone show any sort of joy around her.
So it's Hannah Montana.
Yeah. It's Smile 2. So we are, we're talking about Smile 2. History with this movie. I haven't seen the first one. You have.
Yeah, I have.
So it kind of starts off like as a direct follow-up to that. But,
yeah, it does.
But not something that I was super familiar with. I remember all of the, they hid people at like ballparks and stuff, and that was kind of the viral marketing for the first Smile.
Yeah, they've continued that with the second one too. Yeah, like the online ads that I've seen for the past week are like people going up to the box office and buying tickets and having this big smile on their face, very sinister looking, just like the movie.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I no. Although we're giving away free posters tomorrow.
Oh, really?
For anybody that has a ticket for Smile 2.
All right. Well, if you're hearing this the day it comes out, then get on up there.
Yeah, come to Grand Avenue and get a free poster.
Yep. Hashtag sponsored, not sponsored. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. Thank you, Paramount. Paramount actually has been really helping us out with a lot of marketing stuff lately. So definitely shout out to Paramount.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, it's always nice when one of those big companies remembers that we're the ones who make the money.
Yeah, not Sony.
Anyone but Sony.
Saturday Night just did not. Man, that bombed.
Saturday Night is like, it's got pulled basically from everywhere almost, I think, from what I've heard.
No, our film buyer said that his bookings this week for everybody else but us was a nightmare because of that film.
Oh, right, because they won't let it get pulled.
They won't, right. It had to play a second week clean, which means that it still has to run all day long, can't be doubled up with anything, can't share a screen. Like it has to. So
when you say doubled up by anything, that means if it's in theater 4, it's in theater 4 all day. Is that what you mean? Okay.
Right. Not like right now, our double up is Beetlejuice and Whitebird. So Beetlejuice plays 3 times a day. Whitebird plays 2.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Sad that people aren't going to see it because out of the films that have come out this year, it is definitely in the upper echelon of art that's enjowable. Not an art film, but art that someone made.
Yeah,
it's
not Joker Folie which fell flat on its face right out the door this week.
The Joker's been bid fully adieu from this theater because it's fully gone.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Why we had a whole Beetlejuice for another week.
$200 million down the toilet. But we're not talking about Joker this week.
No.
You can listen to our episode on that.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear more about that, I think our opinions have mostly stayed the same. I like it a little bit less than when we first watched it, mostly because I think the musical bit really got to me by the next day.
I have about the same opinion I did when we reviewed it, but more than likely I'll probably never go back and watch it again.
Yeah, me neither.
No.
Speaking of things I'll never go back and watch again, let's talk about this week's movie. It's Smile 2. Andy, your thoughts on this? We always start with your thoughts because they're better.
Oh, that's funny. I liked it. I thought it was a little bit better than the first one. It's definitely a lot more funny, or at least to me it was, because I was the only one laughing in the theater last night.
Oh, I got a couple laughs. I got a couple.
I like the fact that it just didn't take itself very seriously.
Yeah.
And horror films that do that are actually a lot better, in my opinion, when they're not setting out to be like the next Halloween or Friday the 13th and just film just about anything and let it go. And this Smile 2 definitely does that. But it's entertaining. I didn't think it was boring. I like the fact that it shows the split psychosis of Skye, the main character. And it almost reminds me in a way of kind of a newer version of Nightmare on Elm Street, because you're not sure where reality and the psychosis begins and ends.
That's a big part of this film.
And that's mainly the reason I really like this, because these Past the Curse movies that have been going around the last couple of years, they're all about the same. And that's how I felt about The First Smile. It's another Past the Curse film. It's okay. Has a cool ending, though, which was enough to make me want to see the second one. And yeah, I wasn't disappointed with this at all. In fact, like, I was expecting very little out of this and was pleasantly surprised at how much I actually liked it.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I definitely liked it.
So if you had to give this a rating, would you say good, bad, great, or terrible?
Good.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I think I'd give it a good as well.
Yeah.
I definitely don't ever want to put it in my eyeballs again. And I'll talk a little bit in spoilers about it. It's a story I've told on the pod before, but it's very, very relevant here. Okay. There's. I think as a movie, it's interesting from a cinematography standpoint, especially. Like, it's one of those movies where you can really feel the director going, and now the camera moves, and wait, now, like you can kind of feel that happening, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. It's an orchestrated sort of tension building thing, but for me, it actually kind of helped my viewing experience, because I'm like, right, it's just a movie. So like,
this isn't Last House on the Left, though.
Let's we'll talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre after this. But yeah, I definitely was enjoying some of that. It's for a budget of $28 million. Yeah, this looks way more expensive.
Yeah,
like
it does.
That just goes to show you the Joker was absolutely a tax evasion sort of money laundering scheme, because it cost $200 million, and this looks just as good. Like, it
actually look better than Joker
in some ways. Yeah, like, Joker's a very different aesthetic, and like getting period clothes and stuff is expensive. But I generally think that there's a lot of good stuff in this. There's a lot of really goofy stuff, which I did enjoy.
Yeah, I did too.
There's one particular moment. This isn't spoiling anything, but there's one particular moment where there's a bunch of smiling people over the back of a couch, and one is leaned in under the lampshade, and I was the only person who laughed, because she's under the lamp, so she should be the brightest, but somehow she's the darkest one in the room. She doesn't look creepy. She looks like she's like, Am I doing it? And I just busted out laughing, and I'm sure everyone was like, "What are you laughing about?" But she just looks so goofy, and she was leaned in so far, and because of the wide-angle lens, she looks even longer than she's supposed to be. And
the stuff that I was laughing at, nobody laughed at either last night.
I think we were both picking out completely different things to giggle about.
Yeah,
yeah. It was. Look, it was.
I'm curious to see what Parker Finn's going to do after this, because obviously it sets up for another one, but which is not really a spoiler. Anybody that can see these knows
the way it sets up for another one is interesting, though.
Yeah, it is, and I'm curious to see if he does one.
Yeah,
but I want to see what he does with something other than this, because he hasn't done any other movies other than the first one and the second one, or at least I think.
Let me double check on that. Yeah, filmography, Smile and Smile 2.
And it's interesting, like the first one was just supposed to be a Paramount Plus direct-to-streaming thing, and the studio liked it so much that they put it out in theaters, and it was a gamble that paid off, rather than Disney that did The First Omen earlier this year, that was supposed to be directly to Disney Plus or Hulu, and they decided to put it in theaters because there wasn't a whole lot of product, but that movie sucked. And I was like, no, you should have stuck with your original.
Yeah, probably.
Because I did not like it at all.
People are much more willing to put up with trite crap in their own home. I don't know why, but we are.
The Omen one really just bothered me because it just seemed to rehash the original one a lot, and it didn't do anything original for me, and it just kind of annoyed me more than anything.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, yeah, you should just throw this to streaming. Whereas Smile, it is a past the curse film.
Sure.
But it had a novel approach that I think the first one, that putting it in theaters was a good idea and did like great amount of business. It was good enough to do a second one. And the second one, it definitely is a fun movie.
It certainly, like, it's a movie that's about something that helps. It's about guilt and this entity that is getting passed around is feeding off of people who have been through or done terrible things, and it's all about that sort of that idea of like feeding your own demons. And so like it's an interesting concept, and I think that watching Skye kind of going nuts throughout this, you're totally like, okay, I can, but what is she crazy? Is she not? Like that's always part of it. I think by the time you get to the second one, you're like, okay, well the thing is real. Okay, fine in this universe. But yeah, no one else knows it, and so I thought that was interesting. There's a lot of misdirection. There's a lot of things that that definitely had me, shampooing my hair last night with my eyes open for the first time in a long time. Because I was like, I am not going to have my eyes closed and then open my eyes and see some spooky... like, no. And I actually, when I got out of the shower last night, I called out to my wife because we had jokingly in the kitchen, we'd each done it to each other, the smile. But I was getting out of the shower and I went to reach for the door handle and I went, Hannah? There was no response. And I was like, all right, look, if you're sitting outside the door thinking, he, I'm going to get you. If I open this door and you're smiling at me, I'm not going to talk to you for 3 days. I'm not having it. It's not a good idea.
See, all you have to do is then watch your Solar Flight ad on our screens where Hannah's big smiling face is on the screen.
It's not the same smile, but she has, certain faces can do that smile more creepily than others. And my wife is a beautiful, kind-hearted woman who has one of those faces where she twists it. Oh my God.
And Jessica even wonders if she can smile sometimes because she doesn't smile around Jessica much at all. So
that's because we always come. So Thursdays are movie nights for us. And Thursday... she is in class at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
And so by the time she gets here, she's completely tuckered out. But yeah, no, I was calling. I was like, don't do it. And she wasn't responding. I was like, son of a gun, I'm going to open this door. She's going to be sitting there. And I opened it. No one was there. And then I heard, are you talking to me? I was like, yes. Sorry, I fell asleep. I was like, oh my gosh, she scared the crap out of me by falling asleep. Because I thought if she's not responding, that means she's right outside the door. And if she talks, she'll give herself away. So I was fully expecting to see her messing with me. I was like, just don't do it. She goes, I wouldn't do that. I was like, you just told me that you would if it was funny.
And doing that to you is pretty funny.
Don't do it to me, Andy. Especially not when I'm getting out of the shower. You shouldn't be there anyway.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, that's a whole other issue. Yeah, no, that's not going to be happening.
But yeah, overall, I thought that it was a fun time if you like horror films. I'm not a horror film person, so I definitely I'm not the
But
market.
Yet I've made you watch more in the past month than you probably have your entire life.
Yes, and amazingly, we're still speaking to each other. But I love suspense and I love thriller, but I don't like horror. And I think there's definitely a line where it's like there's a line that gets over into one or the other, and like Never Let Go was technically a horror film,
right?
But it felt much more like suspense or thriller, like it was more on that side of the line.
Speak No Evil was definitely more of a thriller than it was a horror film too. But they're all kind of, especially with Blumhouse being behind Speak No Evil, that it's labeled as a horror film,
right? Yeah, and it's this one is going straight into monster horror stuff, which not the same. Like Wolfman, I don't think is going to bother me at all. This does, I think, maybe because it is much closer to like demonic possession sort of stuff.
That new trailer that I put on for Wolfman last night actually makes it look really good.
It does, yeah.
So I was curious because that had just come in on the satellite feed that day, and I was like, okay, I have to put that on Smile because they did that purposely to get that on.
For sure,
for programming.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, yes, I will take full advantage of that.
Thank you very much. If I had to give it a good, bad, great, or terrible, I'd say good. You know, as far as horror films go, I'm sure that there's lots of things people be like, well, that's, you know, derivative, whatever. You want to sit there and see spooky images and, you know, pee your little pants. Have fun.
Is it.
Go nuts.
It's that without being like extremely gory to the point of being disgusting. Like there is some gore in this, but it's not. It's not over the top and just utterly in your face like another certain film that's out right now that I'm not going to mention.
Don't watch Terrifier. Just be better than that.
I was trying not to mention it.
I'm going to say Terrifier 3 shouldn't exist. Terrifier 2 shouldn't exist. Terrifier 1 shouldn't exist. That boy needs Jesus, and everyone involved with it should stop. I'm just saying it. I'm saying it. I'm allowed to have... I
just think it's funny when the owners of the theater, you know, Monday morning quarterbacking for movie people, you know, you make a choice not to play something and then go, did I really make a bad choice not playing this? And was reassured by the owners, no, that you did fine. It's better that we just stay away from it.
Terrifier 3 did $18 million in its opening weekend, and it absolutely is like once all the frat boys are done watching, and I'm sure it'll drop off, and I really hope it does.
Yeah, I'm actually hoping Smiles steals a lot of its business this week. Just because it's probably the better horror film anyway.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like this is the last of horror films until Christmas.
That's true.
Ironically, with Nosferatu, which I am like eagerly awaiting.
Yeah. I don't know.
You not wanting to see Nosferatu?
Well, no, I do, but I also don't. But I do, but I don't. But I do, but I don't.
Yeah, but it's got Willem Dafoe in it.
I know, but it's
and Nicholas Hoult.
You know what actually weirdly bothered me?
What?
And we'll get back to Smile in a second. But what bothered me about the second Nosferatu trailer was like before it was just yes, consume blood, evil and stuff, and then the second trailer. There was a lot of sexual implications, and I was like, do we need this?
Yeah, but
I know it's dumb of me to be like, well, that's my problem with it. But it did make me feel like just uncomfortable in a way I wasn't.
Yeah, but that's kind of the story of Dracula. When you think about it, it's a dark obsession story at its core.
Sorry, I'm only familiar with Twilight, so I'm not sure what the...
You did that on purpose.
No,
I know
just
you did.
Kidding. I'm more familiar with the Vampire Diaries.
Oh, that's even worse.
I know. Let's just get into spoilers. Let's do it.
Yeah,
let's start spoilers.
Let's go.
This is the funniest final creature I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah, like you said last night, it was Slimer.
It was Slimer with like a really long body. Okay, so basically the story is 6 days after the suicide in the first one, the girl sets herself on fire.
Yeah.
A guy tries to pass on the entity to Russian
mobsters, which is awesome.
I loved that very much.
I was kind of waiting for George Clooney and Brad Pitt to show up, and then he's like,
now that's a good movie. But he goes in and he tries to pass it on to one of these Russian mobsters, but this
they deserve it.
Kind of lower level drug dealer happens to be there. He's the one that witnesses both of them dying, and then that guy is the person who sells drugs to Sky Riley, and so she ends up with it because she sees him smash his own face in. No spoilers there. That's all in the trailer.
Yeah.
But the whole thing about him trying to go in and pass it to the Russian mob and be like, you shot 2 people. And the guy's like, who cares? Who are you?
Yes, how much you want?
Yeah, it's great. I think I was very, very annoyed by the skid marks left by the truck that hit him because I was like, that doesn't make any physical sense.
No, what's worse is the skid marks in the underwear that was shown later in the film.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, you want to talk about skid? We'll loop back around on that one, but because that was the one part where I almost threw up. But
I laughed hysterically. I
laughed, but I was like,
I thought that was so funny.
Oh goodness!
And I shouldn't have laughed at that, but I was like, no, that's really funny.
That's the director going. Let's see if we can get this past the studio.
Yeah, hold on. Let me take these off and.
You really don't want a director who's sitting in his own skid marks, man. I tell you what, that guy's not giving you good direction.
Parker, if that was your underwear, that's pretty cool, man.
But that scene was all one big long take. There's actually a couple of scenes in here that take place as one long take, and I found myself catching on to it like halfway through the takes, going, "Wait a second, this is all one big shot."
Yeah.
And we've seen that a lot recently. Like it's very much in vogue now, if you will. But I'm liking it.
Me too.
I don't have a problem with it because the staging and the choreography of all of that is so incredibly complex, and I just appreciate that.
Killer's Game had a little bit of that too, which I was surprised to see in that one.
You missed
didn't
see it.
No. That's one that does not need to go on the list. Trust me.
I saw the trailer and was like, nah.
It's a little better than the trailer made it look, but it's
okay.
It is.
So Sky Riley, basically, she has a history of substance abuse. She's trying to be clean now, but she has back pain because she was in a terrible accident. She has 2 big scars, one on the front, one on the back. She's trying to get Vicodin just to deal with the pain. And she does seem like she, as far as the movie goes, it seems like she is she's clean. It's just pain medicine, and she's using it properly. But yeah, she goes there, and boy, I tell you what, Lucas Gage playing Lewis, really, really freaking creepy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that whole thing where you kind of see him being erratic and dropping in and out of reality and all of that stuff.
Well, that and snorting a pile of coke as big as a small mountain.
That will not help.
I sat there and leaned over to Jessica. I'm like, do you think you really should be doing that with the mental state that he's in?
Right, yeah.
No, that's not going to help.
No, but I don't think anyone has ever been in a good mental state when they snort a pile of cocaine.
But that was like Tony Montana size.
I know, it was insane. And yeah, oh man, that whole scene was very uncomfortable.
And it wasn't one time that he bashes himself in the face with a 35-pound weight.
I know.
It's multiple.
I think it was 3 total in the last one, skins hanging off the jaw. It was a very gross image.
But that's probably, outside of the creature appearing close to the end of the film or the entity, that's not the worst that it gets.
No, it's not the worst, but it is the most realistic kind of stuff. Because the other stuff is there's a lot more face morphing into something completely unnatural or whatever, and that guy had his skin hanging off his face. That's more real, quote unquote, I suppose. So it's gross in that way.
I guess someone with Sky's mother too was a bit graphic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although that death scene, how that death scene unfolds, I thought was really cool. From the entity screaming at Sky and then looking like the mother stabbing herself to death, and then she goes to the door and the piece of glass that or mirror that she just stabbed herself with is in her hand.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I like, and there's a lot of stuff in this movie like that I really liked. So it's hard for me to say that I hated this.
Yeah.
Just for the simple little plot twist or tactics like that.
All of those moments are, I think, very well done. It is very much oh, wait, if you're having a mental breakdown, you may remember this, but not this. And it's playing with those ideas of schizophrenia, of guilt, of all of those things and how they interplay with the added bonus of, hey, all those things you think about yourself, there's this entity that is going to confirm it for you and make it worse and get you to do things, and you won't even know you're doing them and all those things.
So my question is, the one character that was in that was trying to help her the entire time, that said that the brother killed himself from ripping his jaw off with a crowbar.
Morris.
So does that character even exist?
So that's the question. It's very, very difficult to tell what was a hallucination and what wasn't.
Right.
And it's in my head canon, it's when he meets her in the bar and he says, if you leave now, it's too late. It's been feeding on you for 3 days. It'll start manipulating you in ways you don't even know that it's doing, which was kind of redundant because that's how manipulation works, but whatever. But I think perhaps he was real there, but that you could absolutely make the argument that he was never real and the whole thing was just the thing messing with her.
Right, because when it comes to the point with her, which we got to get to this story about her being locked in a Pizza Hut meat locker, where supposedly she's trying to kill herself to get rid of this thing, but also revive herself. And then she goes and stabs herself in the neck with the needle, and then the next thing you know, the needle's not there, and it's all.
And the monster even says to her, this isn't real.
Right.
Break a leg out.
You don't control me.
Yeah, you're not in control. I am, which is what she had said while she was in the car, and then found out she was driving, and I don't think any of that happened because when she's on stage at the end, her mom is there. So obviously the mom murder doesn't happen. And then the whole driving thing, no, that doesn't happen.
Right.
The whole Pizza Hut thing. Hilarious though. If you were going to torture someone mentally, you would get them in a dilapidated Pizza Hut. That is absolutely the area you would do that in. And I was laughing because and I'll tell this story now. The getting locked in a Pizza Hut freezer.
Yeah,
that's happened to me. I was working at Pizza Hut. I was 16 years old. And I worked with these two guys who will remain nameless for legal reasons. But they also, I can't remember their names. I just remember their faces and that I don't like them. Well, legally, I'm an idiot. So yeah. But I was working there and I was doing the dough. You know, you have to get it out and put it in the pans, and then it has to sit outside for a little bit outside the freezer, and then go into the freezer for its proof. So yeah, I'm doing that, and I'm moving them in there, and they go ahead and just shove a rack in front of the freezer door, and I can hear them laughing. So it was on purpose. And I was in there for about an hour. Couldn't text anyone because there's no cell phone service in the freaking freezer, and cell phones were a little more sketchy back then.
Okay,
you know? And so I just had no signal, and I was like, and so I was dressed in Pizza Hut attire, which is thin black slacks and a polo shirt, just so cold. And I when I finally got out of there, I was like, what is wrong with you guys? And they were like, well, we just thought you needed to chill out. And I was like, that's not funny. It's a little funny, but it's not funny.
That's why you don't like frat boys.
No, they weren't frat boys. These two men. They were in their 30s and early 40s.
That's even worse.
They were they worked at Pizza Hut because you could tell nowhere else was going to hire them. They spent all their money on the PlayStation 4 in their mom's basement, and there was those kind of guys. And they literally bullied me because I owned an Xbox. And they were like, well, you have to pay for online services, and we have PlayStations, and so we don't have to pay for that, blah, blah, blah. Which, one, Sony changed, so joke's on them. But two, like, I'm 16. I have an Xbox. Like, it's not a big deal, but they bullied me for it for days. And then another day...
They were just jealous.
Yeah, maybe. But another day, they were doing something, chopping up stuff in the kitchen, and I'm doing dishes, and they threw a knife, like a big chopping, chef knife, past my head into the dishwasher.
Ooh.
Or into the sink, and I just was like,
dish pit.
I was so pissed off, and it was about 3 weeks after that. Because they would throw other stuff past me, but that was like the worst. Was like that's a knife. That's a freaking knife, you morons. And they thought it was hilarious. And then Pizza Hut didn't pay me for 3 weeks, and I quit. I walked in. Well, we were. It was the busiest day of the year, which is like last day of school. Everyone orders pizza at all these schools, and they hadn't paid me, and I'd brought it up 4 times with my manager. I was like, she wouldn't. She just refused to talk to me about it. Like, it wasn't I'm trying to work on it. It was just like, I don't want to talk about it. And then she would walk away. And so I walked in at 6 a.m. when we were starting to prep stuff, handed over my gun and my badge, and was like, I quit. And they were like, well, can you at least like stay today? Like, you're the only one scheduled with us to help. And I was like, no.
I'm not working for free.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no.
A year later, I got a paycheck from Pizza Hut corporate. A year later.
A year?
How
does that happen?
Someone was doing
auditing.
Auditing and found it. And was like,
we never paid Garrett.
Let's stop the lawsuit now.
That's why I refuse to go to like Popeyes in town here, because I know like last Christmas they didn't pay their employees.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not supporting that. Not to mention Popeyes food sucks.
Yeah.
So that's just reason number one.
Anyway, being locked in a Pizza Hut freezer does suck. So
I didn't realize that Pizza Hut freezers were that big either.
They're not. I don't know what kind of industrial grade Pizza Hut that this guy rented in this movie, but it is
because that freezer was gigantic,
and there's a huge hallway back to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that should be the kitchen. That should be the prep area.
Right.
There's no room to prep in there. You have 2 guys in there. They're just going to be rubbing butts back and forth as they try to work on either side of it, and no two men are going to work in that scenario. And so, yeah, that was the wonkiest looking Pizza Hut I've ever seen the inside of. But sufficiently spooky, I suppose. But yeah, that freezer, no, ours was never that big. And most Pizza Huts are the same size.
Right.
So, it doesn't make sense to me that freezer was the size big you would have at like a Gordon Ramsay, hotel
like you could play
restaurant.
Football in that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, normal Pizza Hut restaurants have like a finger football size.
Says when I worked at Buc-ee's, the freezer wasn't that big.
Yeah, Buc-ee's is huge.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, none of it was real, so I guess that should have been a clue.
Yeah, no, but getting back to that too. That's another thing why I like this, because you had a hard time separating what parts are from reality, what parts are in your head, and it really just reminds me of like the original Nightmare on Elm Street that way.
Yeah,
and I like that the original film did that and played tricks with your mind just like this one did. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate films that do that, because at least they're not just so cut and dry that you can figure them out.
Right. Yeah.
And this one kept you guessing, especially the part in the car with her best friend, and then she gets a call from her best friend, and then then you're like, okay, where is this going?
Yeah, and even in the moment when she's on the phone with Gemma, you're still wondering, like, is the car one real or is the phone one real?
Right.
Like you don't know until you look over and it's like, and it's like, oh yeah, it's the fake one. But they're both fake actually, because the none of that happened.
Yeah.
Presumably, I don't know. Like, I'm a little like frustrated that there's no tell. Like maybe if I watched it through again, I won't. Maybe if I watched it through again, I would be able to like go, oh well, this is like the tell. Because like at the very end, she's wearing the outfit she said she would never wear earlier on in the movie, and it's like I thought that was going to be like, oh well, this isn't real, and she's going to overcome this, right? But then the movie ends with her in that outfit on stage in front of people, getting just with a giant 20-foot monster that's just Slimer made out of beans, and and it's like, oh, so that was real.
Although the sculpting and everything on that creature actually it looked better than Alien Romulus, to be honest. Because at least that's something like the Alien Romulus one. That was my only problem with that film, was that final creature in that. This one, actually, that's something that almost vomit the soul up, and this is what you would have. And
maybe so.
Like I said, the sculpting on that and how everything was put together, I thought was really cool.
I just thought it looked really green screened in.
It didn't bother me.
There was something about it that was just like, everything else in the movie had been so slick that this moment where it looks like a 70s, stop motion thing made its way into the movie, I was like, what?
Harryhausen is still alive.
Yeah. And like, it's not necessarily a criticism. It threw me off. And I just was like, that's a turd with legs. That's a big poop with legs. That's all that is. And it made me giggle. It made me giggle.
But made the payoff for the ending of that, so everybody that watched that in that arena now is subject to...
Okay, so that's the question, is this parasite something that can propagate and multiply, or is it just going to pick one?
Well, we'll see if number 3 is greenlit.
The way it ends does not necessarily, to me, seem like something that you can be like, and that's the end of our story. Like, you've got to have something else that you're planning to do with it.
Well, and that's how the first one ended, too.
So, I think it was left open-ended on purpose.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocking to me that she dies. That's the end.
It wasn't just because the main person from the first one died, so I kind of figured it was going to follow suit.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was going to be a resolution to the second one. I kind of figured it was going to be not good.
Yeah.
And, I like those things where the bad guys win. So,
well, I think that it was fun to see something that actually, kind of takes the whole I can fix it on my own thing and goes like, no, you can't.
Or I wonder how many like bands or pop stars are going to like cancel meet and greets now after that one scene in this.
All right, so let's jump back to that. So she has started to see the smile after Paul's death. She's starting to see this. Things are starting to unravel for her.
Right.
And she gets approached by this guy who I thought he looked like a burn victim at first. I'm not sure. Like, I guess it was just acne, like really bad acne.
It was just acne.
But yeah, that guy, was he Was he a smile person or was he just a regular creep?
He was just a regular creep
so?
Because he didn't have the grotesque painted on Joker smile. He was just creepy as all get, like, especially when he's like, "Oh, I love how your skin feels." Oh,
well, but that's the thing, though, is because later on at the end in the freezer, the monster says to her, "I love wearing your skin." So it's like, maybe that was that the whole time, but then did other people see that? But did that actually happen? I don't know. Did she actually throw an old woman off the stage?
That was funny.
That was very funny. Oh my God. I leaned over to Hannah. I was like, that old lady can take a fall. Good job, stunt woman. Like, that's great.
Estelle Getty, take notes.
Yeah. I really, I wish I could know what was real and what wasn't, because I mean, there's, she's very clearly having these flashbacks to the night that her boyfriend died and they were both intoxicated, and we get to see the fight. Yeah. And it's her fault because she grabs the wheel and is like, bah!
Off a cliff.
Which is a metaphor for her whole life, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that part played by Ray Nicholson, Jack Nicholson's son. Boy, he's got that smile.
Yep.
He's got that friggin' smile. That whole scene in the gala. I still don't understand, even with her unraveling, like, why it is that she would divulge all the information she did rather than
just to eat up time on stage, so it's
puff.
not just standing there like staring at the teleprompter.
Oh, right, but like you could come up with something other than that.
She couldn't think. Well, she's a pop star. Her brain is not that complex.
Fair enough.
They're very shallow.
It definitely felt to me like that was kind of a forced thing, though. Like from a screenwriting
I'll tell you what would be even better if like Miley Cyrus was in the role of this, like playing herself. Because
that's about the journey.
This is kind of who I wish it upon.
Oh no, we can't do that. She definitely would have. If it was Miley Cyrus, she would have been out there and been like, I guess you really you learn the music industry can take everything from you.
Well, then at least we know that the curse would die with her because nobody's paying attention to her anymore.
Fair enough.
So there's a win.
It's really sad too, because The Climb is actually a song that I kind of like. And
okay.
Is it great? No, but it's like it's a little bit uplifting, but
really,
everything else she's done, I'm like, oh no.
I really like the woman that played Sky. Who was
Naomi Scott,
who was Jasmine in Guy Ritchie's Aladdin, which I absolutely hate that movie. But
she also was in Charlie's Angels in 2019.
Yeah, nobody saw that.
She was also in Power Rangers.
Yeah, nobody saw that either.
I did.
Oh, you did?
I did. Well, I saw it for the podcast.
Of
I was
all
doing
the
at the
films
time.
that you have, that
it
really
wasn't. It was the big movie that weekend. I was living the curse of this before the curse of this.
See,
it was the previous curse.
Now you and Drew have something in common.
I didn't say I liked it. I said I saw it.
Oh, okay. Cool clarification on that. That Guy Ritchie Aladdin, I just absolutely hate.
It's so bad. I
but
thought
she's really good in this.
Naomi Scott was good. She does. There are certain times where the director has chosen to do this really long shot of her looking constipated. And it's not, I'm not even picking on it. I'm just like, there were times where I was just like, you could probably cut 30 to 40 seconds from this movie and not lose anything because we get it. She looks scared. Like, she looks terrified.
Well,
she's doing that really well.
You could have cut like 20 minutes out of this thing. It didn't need to be as long as it was.
That was the thing that I was thinking too. And I understand that it
And
was
even
going for a specific pacing.
And even like that ballroom scene could have been chopped out by about 10 minutes.
I think the whole ballroom scene could have been chopped out.
Right.
I don't think we needed it at all. Like that was the thing, is it feels like this forced moment of her espousing dialogue that we already know. It wasn't adding anything.
And it's just reiterating it.
I'll keep it to see the old lady fall on the table. That's hilarious. So if that's the reason they kept it, do it again.
So be it.
But in general, that whole scene up until that point, because that was funny, was like, this isn't doing anything for me. Like,
right.
You would have had the same thing if she went out there and the moment she steps on stage, she looks out and she sees him And instead of her doing this whole, you realize that it takes everything from you, and blah 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 blah.
And I'm like,
she could have just looked out and said, "Thank you so much for inviting me here tonight." And then she sees him, and he stands up, and he starts walking, and it's just that. That's enough,
right?
And it cuts.
Thanks
5
for your
minutes
whole
out of the movie.
tirade about the music industry. Tell us something we don't know.
Right? Yeah, like we all know what's going on with Diddy. All right,
right.
So, but yeah, that part, there's a couple little moments like that where it's like you're kind of belaboring the point, and it's not always just with like extended things of dialogue, because that's really the only example of that. But there are times where it's like this shot is being held a really long time, and I think it's to mess with you. So maybe it is doing what it's supposed to, but in the same time, it can be tightened a little bit.
Yeah, like this does not need to be 2 hours and 7 minutes long.
No, an hour 45, I think would get everything you need. And it wasn't that I was bored. It wasn't that I was bored.
No, I wasn't bored either. But I always look at these films that are longer than 2 hours. Actually, I'm looking for things that, okay, what could you have done to shorten this up a little bit? And there is some stuff in this that could have been cut easily, but did it detract from me? Like, did I dislike it for that reason? No.
Yeah.
There's still enough for me to gravitate toward this film to really like it.
Sure. And I know that you can absolutely have a long movie that has long, drawn-out takes. I mean, Silence by, Martin Scorsese. It's Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, Silence is the movie that is the one Martin Scorsese film that really bombed.
It's 2 hours and 41 minutes long, and it bombed, but it's really good.
It is.
And this movie is definitely, kind of riding the line on that. And I don't have a lot of issues with the pacing overall, but there were some times where I'm just like, okay, let's move it along just a little bit, just a teeny tiny bit. And I absolutely was starting to get into the cadence by the end, because they love to do that thing where it gets real quiet and it goes and they do that. And so I just started to get to a point where I was like, here it comes, and I would put my fingers in my ears, and within 10 seconds, boom, jump scare. And I was like, yeah, there it was. And then I'd take my fingers back out of my ears, because I'm very protective of my hearing. And anytime I feel like it's like close to loud, I tend to be like, I'm just gonna put my fingers in my ears to protect it.
Drew does that when the 7.1 balls hit the screen.
Oh, does he really? Those don't bother me. I think it was the jolting effect of it, and my excuse is my hearing.
That's Drew's autism too. Like, he's a little bit sensitive to that.
Yeah. It's definitely got a lot of jump scares and a lot of like long, drawn out moments of building tension, and it's very good at that. I just, like I said, I'm curious to see what Parker Finn does outside of this. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely he's got a cadence to what he's doing here. There's definitely, you can feel him. It's the steady hand of a director who knows exactly what he wants and how long the pacing of each shot is and all of those things.
Take note, Eli Roth.
Yeah, take any notes, Eli Roth, from anyone.
Yeah,
I don't
seriously.
care. But yeah, it's doing that throughout. The whole scene before Gemma shows up in her apartment. And she's, the glass breaks, and then she sees the shirt that she signed for Alfredo. Yeah, and then the long shot down the hallway that ends on his tidy whities with skid marks. Like that. That whole thing. It's very well paced, but I think for me, the camera's looking down at the floor, that whole thing down the hallway. Yeah. And it paid off at the end. No doubt about it. But like in the moment, I'm like, if she's looking down, like if this is supposed to be kind of like her point of view, what an idiot. Look up. Look up. Obviously someone's here. Like, look up. You don't look at the floor. Yeah, but you look up and then you see. Yeah, so that's not better. I'm just so glad we did not have to see Alfredo's wing wang. Yeah, good point. Hold on, I've got a better one. I'm so glad we didn't have to see Alfredo's penne. Wonk, wonk, wonk. I don't know if that was better. I thought it was great. Yeah, there we go. You finally get used to use that. So I know. That's great. Because normally I'm just... No, you need to take last week's podcast. We used that so many times. I know. It got annoying. It's got to get a moratorium. I'm sorry. Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, we didn't see Alfredo's egg roll. That's a very different type of food, but I'll allow it.
I know, but I'm going intercontinental on that one.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, Alfredo, that whole scene where everyone is kind of, crawling through her hallway and stuff.
And it's all of her fans, too, which is a definite mind game, too, about like the obsessiveness of the fans and how that really plays out in her mind. And I guess how she feels about her fan base as well, that they all kind of want something from her and want to take something from her.
Right.
And I'm sure that's a common theme with a lot of the pop stars anyway.
Sure.
And, I do feel a little bit of empathy for that. That's got to be tough. And I can't even imagine, the mental strain that takes on them until I see the stuff about this week with the Wicked poster. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
We'll talk about that for sure.
News. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said for that. And I understand the music industry is tough, just like the film industry. But how you handle it, like, I don't blame them for being in therapy and having psychiatrists and wanting to handle that.
Yeah. But, if you go crazy and kill your boyfriend by swinging the car off the road because you're high on cocaine, that's on you. That's just on you.
Yeah, I don't have much sympathy for that. You were on drugs. That's kind of goes how it goes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, there's definitely, I know things about the film industry and rap parties that I wish I didn't know. But there's a reason I'm not in the industry, like, because I saw that and was just like, I can't hang with you guys. Those margarita glasses are not just filled with alcohol, which I don't touch. They're lined with cocaine, and I just can't do that. That
can't be any worse than going to a George Clinton concert.
I don't know who George Clinton is.
You don't know who George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic?
Nope.
Big 70s funk band, he's still around. He's supposed to be retiring.
Oh, well.
But I met him the 1 year for Lollapalooza. I had a backstage pass from working in a record store at the time. And got to meet him and got like several hugs and several hits of marijuana too on top of that. But
just from the hug,
yeah, it was worse than hugging Snoop Dogg.
Oh my gosh! Well, I'm looking at a picture of him now, and the first picture of him on Google search results.
Yeah,
that's terrifying.
But very very nice gentleman, to say the least. Though
I'm sure he is. I mean,
but
he has no reason to be upset about anything. I'm sure
his outfit was a kid's bedding sheet from Aladdin that he just cut a hole in and put it over himself like a big dashiki.
He's doing great.
But music, if you like 70s funk stuff, definitely check it out. It's good.
So Morris, this character that is a nurse that's trying to convince her to let him kill her first.
Oh yeah,
we talked a little bit earlier about whether or not he was real or
if it's all
creation,
right?
And I want to know. I want to know if that ever was real, because if it's not, then can this thing be killed? Will that ever be addressed? I'm sure not, because it's a franchise that they're going to want to keep going. If it does,
depending on how the grosses do this weekend.
On that, yeah. But I really liked that guy too. Like, especially at the end when
I like that actor.
She goes like, "Show me the needle," and he pulls it up, and she goes, "Oh," and he goes, "I know, sorry." Like he was really cracking me up. Like his name is well, now it's not here.
Yeah, that's what you get for relying on Wikipedia.
Hey, this has worked every other time. I don't know. It's like Jonathan something.
Surprise.
I'm going to find it.
No, you're not.
I will. You can't stop me. Peter Jacobson. It is there. I just can't read. That's always the
glasses.
problem.
That's even worse.
I know. Well, it's not the eyes that are the problem. It's the connection to the brain.
Oh, yeah. You have none.
Yeah. No brain to connect to. But yeah, that guy's been in a whole bunch of stuff. Neither. Yeah, this guy's been in a whole bunch of stuff, including something called Midnight Meat Train.
Yeah, that's one of Bradley Cooper's earlier films with Vinnie Jones is in that too. It's actually a cool little movie.
Huh. Well, he plays Otto in that.
Yeah, not a great film, but yeah, that was a movie that got pushed around forever too, and then just finally got released on like home video. It never hit the theaters.
Well, this one hit the theaters, and it hit my face real hard. So
yeah,
let's talk about kind of. There's a specific moment that I want to talk about just because it is
okay.
Why I had a hard time with this movie, and I did at some point shut my eyes and just wait. And I know that sounds like, oh, what a big baby, But I've told this story I think before on the podcast. But when I was a teenager, I have been told by the only explanation I can tell you is a demon that I have no worth and I should kill myself. Mm-hmm. And I struggle with that for over a decade. And it's still something that likes to, pop its ugly head back up every now and then. And so I was sitting there watching this and seeing this twisted version of Skye on top of her saying those exact things with eyes that I will never be able to get out of my head. Oh my gosh, the eyeball effects.
Oh, the large Marge eyeballs from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah, that tells you.
That's what it reminded me of.
Okay, so I thought I heard you giggling.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I closed my eyes just enough that I could see the smile, but not the eyes, and waited until she got thrown back and was like, "Okay, I can open my eyes again."
Because it's so cartoony. That's why
it's very cartoony. But it is one of those things. It's like it's cartoony, but it's. If that was really happening in front of you, you would not laugh.
No, you wouldn't.
And so that was a difficult part for me, just because it is absolutely something that I fully believe is alive from the enemy that he comes after us with.
Yeah. So that hits home and resonates with you. So that's
it really
I get
did.
that.
Yeah, and it was at that point then frustrating to have it end with, well, it wins. But it does in real life. The suicidal ideations that people have do win, and so I don't necessarily think that the stuff that we make has to reflect always the better outcome. So I'm not even really knocking the movie for that, but it was tough, and I think that that's something that maybe is there to consider. And I was absolutely shocked that she just beats herself through one eyeball with the microphone at the end. And we'll talk about this in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it is always a question of like, what is it that we want to see and we want to allow, to be a part of our entertainment, and I think that there's a different line for different people, but I think that there's probably, I don't know. I think there's a standard at some point that you can look at and go, well, we could agree that this was right, and and maybe this other stuff was wrong, and that's but that it will be very dependent on what you believe. And so Anyway, I really want to know, if there will be, just a bunch of people and it's like down to the last 3 that survive in the next movie and everyone's dead, or if it's just it attaches to one specific person. But I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of people who are out there live streaming that whole thing on their phone, so it's gone and spread way beyond just what happened in the concert venue. And I do think so. VFX wise, for the most part, it's pretty solid. Yeah. But when it like sticks its hands in her mouth and like starts to climb in, I guess is what it was doing.
Yeah.
Her face just looks so rubbery. It didn't like. There was a snap sound when her jaw broke apart into like 3 pieces. But I don't know. There was something about that felt like it could have been crunchier. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like it just kind of was like, and I feel like it should have been crunch and then, like the feeling the ripping of the skin or something as it stretches out. But also, is it real? Is that just a visual representation of something that is happening on a different level? Because like it's a metaphysical being. I don't know. Like because everyone else is seeing her just kind of choke like she saw Lewis do earlier.
Right.
But in the context of what we saw the thing put its hands in her mouth and like pull her open and then try to. I guess it climbs its whole body inside, which is
right.
What is she, a TARDIS? Like, and so. But yeah, I just can't get over how goofy that guy looked. It looks so funny to me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can't.
That's still creepy looking, though.
He's creepy, sure, but also, like, it's a turd with legs. I can't get over the fact that it is. Do you see that in the first one?
No.
Okay, so this is the reveal of that.
Right. They never showed that in the first one.
Probably for the best.
Well, they didn't. They got a little bit more money for this one.
I'm
the
sure
first one they didn't have as much, so they couldn't spend it on crappy VFX.
The first one budget is $17 million. I mean that's not nothing. $28 million. It's an extra $11 million in budget. I mean,
which all went for the poop guy.
I think it all did. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Overall, though, like I don't know. For me, look, if you like horror films, I don't think this is necessarily a completely boring, trite, version of that.
I like I said, I like the more of the psychology of it than I do the physical like violence of it.
Yeah, it has a story and it has something that it's trying to deal with. It's a character thing for the most part. It's what Joker wanted to be, but Joker 2. But it is, for me, it's not a recommend, and I'll just because of like I just can't. I don't know what the purpose of watching this
my
is.
brother's in arms with horror. I would definitely recommend it too.
Sure, great. You guys enjoy it. I don't get it, but
yeah, that's when I go up to the elderly women senior couple that comes in and go, "Oh, you got to see Smile too." Oh yeah. Oh my God, it's just to die for. No, I will not be doing that. Whitebird is to the left. Go find it.
Yeah. Oh goodness. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of that bit. So you want to briefly talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Sure. If you're willing to speak to me after that.
Okay. No, I'm always willing to speak to you. And I hope.
Surprised me.
Okay. So here's the deal. We, for people who don't know, we've been talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You brought it into the theater. It's kind of an October weekend film.
Yeah.
And so it's every Saturday at 10?
Every Friday and Saturday, somewhere in the 10 o'clock hour is kind of where I can fit it.
Okay.
Because I know like this weekend, the one show is like 10:45 at night.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, but it's only an hour and 20-minute film. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't keep the staff here longer than they have to be.
Yeah. It's mercifully short.
Yeah. And was told, like, as soon as it was over, Garrett gets up, Hannah, oh my God, that was so horrible. Mm-hmm. And then Garrett, everybody associated with that needs to die. I'm not going to say exactly what you said.
Yeah,
but
well, look, I was wrong to say what I said.
Yeah, which kind of bothered me. Because I'm like, well, I've liked this film since I was 14 years old. So what does that say about me?
So I was too angry at it and should not have opened my mouth. But with a little bit of time, between then and now, I still absolutely hated it.
Okay,
and
it's not for everybody. I get that.
I think that the reason I had such a visceral reaction, and in my anger, I sinned by saying things I should not have.
Yes,
but I have not often been as confronted with just pure evil and the seemingly celebration of it as I was with that movie. And I think that, I understand the argument that it's not celebrating evil, but it has no point. It's an exploitation film.
It is.
Very much is. And those movies, always have terrible pacing, which is a crime in and of itself.
Well, I've said to anybody that goes see this, the first half hour is incredibly slow.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah. Not only incredibly slow, but I mean, just nonsense.
But once Leatherface swings that hammer on that first victim, man, that movie moves. It's
moving, but it's like moving out of it doesn't feel like the pace picks up necessarily. Just things like, oh, that happened faster.
Maybe in my own head it just seems that way.
There was less walking in between each kill, so that was nice.
And my opinion of Franklin has never changed.
Oh,
I was glad to see him chopped up with a chainsaw.
Franklin's awful.
The second one, Dennis Hopper is Franklin's brother coming to avenge his death with chainsaw gun holsters and a big chainsaw to go after the family in the second one, which is really funny.
That's I don't know.
I know I'm not expecting you to ever watch any of the other sequels to this.
You can't make me.
Right.
But no, here's the reason, and I think that it's the same reason I don't recommend Smile necessarily. So for me, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was actually a life-changing experience for me because I have fallen really bad into cussing again, which I tried not to do for a long time. And I got really stressed out and I fell back into it. And watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre made me so disgusted by evil itself that I went home and swore not to curse anymore.
So the sad part about this, Garrett, is I've seen worse.
I know. I know. And I really, this is why Terrifier 3 is not showing here
right.
Avenue. Yeah.
But even like a lot of the Italian horror films of the 80s, and some of them I like and some of them I don't,
sure.
Are much more disgusting than Texas Chainsaw Massacre is. In fact, Chainsaw is really mild because they didn't have any money to start out with. So there's not a whole lot they can show.
It's incredible set design. I mean, it definitely, I think that disturbed me more than anything else.
And, you know, if you ever want to see that, the house is in Kingsland, Texas, and it's a restaurant called Hooper's.
I'm good.
And they serve barbecue there, too.
No. No, I just, man.
Chopped brisket sandwich, Garrett?
There's things that I think I just have gotten to the point where it's like, I just want to not, you know, be entertained by things that don't have the redeeming factors.
Okay,
like,
but
you have to show evil for there to be something to overcome.
But then I guess I could never show you like the original Halloween then.
So I've seen the original Halloween.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
I'm surprised.
Not as upsetting as this one. I don't know how to put my finger on it.
And Halloween came out 4 years after Texas Chainsaw Massacre did, but it has even less gore than Texas Chainsaw Massacre does.
Yeah.
But it is a textbook film for lighting, shadows, music, atmosphere, and John Carpenter did that with no money.
Yeah.
And has made a film that has stand the test. Like, people still love that, including myself. I love that original film, and it's one of my favorite horror films of all time.
And this has, you know, 3 or 4 shots in it. They're like, wow, that's really pretty. But then you think, well, it's film, and that's golden hour, so of course it's pretty. You cheated.
But I did like the 7.1 remastering of the soundtrack.
The chainsaw's too freaking loud.
I still like it.
It's too loud. I mean, a chainsaw would be loud, so it's not inaccurate, but, you know. No, I don't know, man. I think I just want... I want to not... I'm not entertained by something that is just kind of trying to be like, look at evil. Just look at it. You know, and I think that's what this film was intentionally trying to do. And I read some interviews with Hooper, who said that he heard a radio broadcast and they were talking about gruesome murders or something like that, but they had no intonation. They didn't. It was like they didn't care.
Right.
And that was kind of his inspiration for this. And so, like, you know, I can totally understand the idea of like, look, this stuff is awful, and it should be confrontational to us, and we should be horrified by it, and like look at it. And so,
I mean, it's definitely disturbing and an unsettling film.
Yeah.
But I still like it. Like, and I like for the fact of what you don't see in this film as compared to what you do see. I think this movie, in my mind, plays a lot of mental tricks on you that I think it's still effective to this day. And even with your negative reaction to it, still says something about that film. Whereas you can't walk away from that film and go, it was okay, or just be very apathetic about it. It will give a strong reaction. Either you will really like it or you will really hate it, which is a lot of what movies are. So I'm glad to see like a reaction whether you liked it or not. That's your opinion. I respect that. But to have a film have that kind of reaction after 50 years of being in existence and still being able to be shown, I think that's a testament to the kind of film that it is.
Well, sure, but the reaction I had to it is not because of the film, not because of the artistry of making it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same reaction I would have to hearing a story about, you know, children being sold into sex slavery. It pisses me off, and I think that was the reaction I had to it. It wasn't the movie. As a movie, I think is 95% just like, yeah, that's a 70s, you know, no money film, like whatever. It's not anything special in a lot of ways from what I've seen of you know, and I've seen some older no budget films, and so for like I was like, it doesn't stick with you because it's some, you know, some wonderful piece of you know, master craftsmanship. It sticks with you because it just won't stop doing the same thing for 40 minutes and making you look at it. and it was that was about it. It was like there was no winning, there was no overcoming anything. Like it wasn't interested in the characters. They're just like, oh yeah, it's a bunch of kids and they die and that's it, you know. And
but that's most of like the 80s slasher films too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's actually more character development in that than some of the other, 80 slasher films that I've seen that they show up next thing they're dead.
Yeah.
Or even, the last one I saw within the last couple of years in A Violent Nature, there is no character development in that at all.
Yeah.
The characters are introduced and they're quickly dispatched by this, faceless killer that just appears out of nowhere. And the sole purpose of that film is just to, like a walking video game, the guy walks along, meets a teenager, dismembers or mutilates the body in a horrifying way, and then moves on until he comes across the next one. Oh. I don't like films like that. I don't, but yet I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I just think, I think the thing that I was thinking about was, what's the point of this? What's the point of this film? Like,
never pick up a hitchhiker.
Well, people stopped doing that in the 70s, I guess.
That's why.
Yeah.
And actually, there is some articles to say about like how that film actually lowered the amount of hitchhikers in the 70s.
Yeah.
Was because of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Well, the thing, though, is that it's not the hitchhiker that got them killed. It was walking into someone else's house without any sort of invite.
Yeah, but in Texas, you shouldn't do that anyway.
Exactly, idiots. I didn't get anything out of it. I think is the thing. Like, I can't think of a single reason to sit down and watch it. Because it wasn't entertaining in the fact that it was this well-paced,
I did when I was 14. Like, I watched this solely because of what the title was.
Yeah.
And then
it's a great title.
I'm expecting something that I didn't really get, and like the first time I saw it, I felt kind of cheated.
Yeah.
Because when I put on a horror film too, and it starts off with this narration by John Larroquette in this way, in this instance. The first time I tried to watch it, I shut it off because it's this narrative. I'm like, nope, not doing that at like 1 o'clock in the morning, like staying up late. I'm going on to some other film. And that's when I first started watching Streets of Fire. And then came back to it like during daylight hours when it wasn't going to freak me out as much.
Yeah.
And watched the whole thing. And I kept going, the first part of this is incredibly slow.
Yeah.
Considering some of the other horror films that I were watching around that time were like super fast, and how they take off. But I just still think there's something to be said for it. I like the rough graininess of this thing. I like how it was shot. I like the stories behind it about how the guy that played Leatherface and Toby Hooper got into these heated, almost fist-fighting arguments over
Talk about heated.
Right. And, I've been to the house, I've been to the restaurant and seeing, it's just really cool to see all that. I've been to the gas station in Bastrop, Texas, which is generally a big horror film supermarket that does serve barbecue as well.
Nope.
And it's really...
I'll never eat sausage again.
It is really good food. But it's cool to see all these things. Yeah, I'm not a cannibal. Thank you. Although I do say cannibal in movies is pretty cool.
What? Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I feel the same way about it that I kind of feel about horror overall. Is like, generally, I just can't.
It's for some people, and some people just can't accept it, and you're just one of those people, Garrett. And I'm not saying that negatively against you. Yeah, it's just that's how it is. But it was
a spiritual thing for me. It really is,
and it was a great escape for me when I was a teenager because my teenager sucked. It was cool for me to go to downtown Pittsburgh, go to the Grindhouse Theater, and see some god awful horror film every week, and escape the miserable reality that I had. And for that's why I will always like these films.
Yeah. For me, it just, it very much is I want to be not associated with that side of humanity, like the dark parts of it. Like I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in that. And it puts me right in the middle of it. And, it's like, if I'm chasing being closer to God, this is like the opposite of that. So I just don't want it. Like I just want to be removed from it. Because, I think most people are capable of great evil, and there are some movies
people
that show it
are
and
capable of things worse than we saw in that film.
Oh, for sure. Politics, for instance. But yeah, yes. I think I just want to, I'm not entertained by it. I'm appalled by it. And I think that's something that I just don't think will ever change.
Okay.
So, and that's not a judgment thing on anyone else. Just to be clear, like I had a visceral reaction. I said some things that were kind of meant to be jokes, but were too mean. And so, I apologize for that. Like we all screw up, and I definitely did. But like, yeah, it just I'm very much looking forward to anything that's not a horror film at this point.
Well, I think we're out of that season, so except Venom is next week. Which is not a horror film,
palate cleanser. Thank God.
And then after that, here, the Robertson, we got confirmed for that the other day, so we're definitely getting it.
Sweet.
And then
I think it's going to be weird.
Yeah, I don't really know what to expect from it to be like. People could love it or hate it. It's going to go either way. There's not going to be a middle ground for that film. I know that.
I don't think so either.
But it'll attract all the old people to just because Tom Hanks is in it, which is fine. Yeah. I have nothing against that.
Hey, old people got to watch movies too. As a matter of fact, they probably have time to watch more than any of the rest of us.
Yeah, but it's funny watching them all load into Joker this past week. There was a couple of show, like there were a couple of days where nobody was in that movie at all.
Yeah.
But then there was a couple where some seniors would come in the afternoon and go see that, and then I'm there greeting them as they leave, and they go, "Did you watch it?" "Yeah." "Oh my God, I'm so sorry that you had to watch that." And I was like, "No, I voluntarily watched that." They're like, "Really? Why?" And I was like,
I do a podcast called The Grand Review. And
that's actually what I said.
Did you really?
I said, did you all come early enough to see the ad? I'm Andy.
Yeah, I definitely think that that movie would kill an old person if they were on the brink of death. Yeah. They'd be like, I don't have the will to live anymore, and they would just die. Like.
But then we have the torturous, in another way, wicked.
Yeah. So that's next week? No, it's the
no.
No,
that's not till the 22nd.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we're good.
So we're
good. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to Wicked.
Gladiator.
Gladiator, I'm very much looking forward to. That's going to be great.
Our filmmaking department said it's awesome.
Sweet.
It's really good.
Yeah, I just like. I like Gladiator, and I like men fighting with swords, and they got boats in the Colosseum, which is apparently a thing they actually did in Rome.
Yeah, that whole sequence from the trailer looks amazing.
It looks so cool.
I can't wait.
Yeah, that's going to be great. And there's going to be gore and blood and all kinds of terrible things in that.
But at least there's going to be a purpose to that.
Sure, absolutely.
Our amusement.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we haven't progressed as a society at all since Rome.
No, but Russell Crowe had that monologue in the first one. That, are you not entertained? This is not what you came to see. And there is something to be said about society from the age of Rome to now, that it really hasn't changed much in that aspect.
Where humans are horrifying.
Yeah,
horrifying. That's why I don't like watching movies that are just horrifying, because it's like I get enough of this, and I've been on Twitter. That's enough.
the shadow zone, as I call it.
We never go there, Simba. But what's over there, Dad? It's just a bunch of girls and their OnlyFans links. It's true. That's all it is now.
I loved it. For during COVID, I worked for Visa in the fraud division, and hearing people like the charges for OnlyFans coming up. Well, I never did that. I never did. And you go, well, I got to cancel your card, and say, whoa, wait a minute. And it's like, okay, so did you not do that, or did you this is just two guys talking? I'm not going to tell anybody that you're doing whatever you do. And
this conversation is being recorded and monitored, but we're just going to laugh at it in the office. We're not going to send it to your wife. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, Marcy, it's your husband on the phone over here. Guess again. Look at the charges I got on this one.
She's like, you would not believe what he has on the Discovery card. I mean, jeez.
Visa. It was Visa I worked with.
Well, I was implying you had multiple.
Oh, okay.
And she's like, yeah, I've been through this.
So that's her take on Texas Chainsaw. Like, Garrett is of one mind, and I am of the other mind in the dark side of reality.
I know people probably think I'm a prude, but I just,
I don't think that of you. You have different tastes than I do.
I just want to be, if I'm going to sit down and be entertained, I don't want to feel dirty about it. I think because I kind of had the same, a similar angry reaction a little bit to Deadpool and Wolverine. That faded a little bit more quickly. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I still want to puke a little bit. But
there's horror films I felt that I needed to take a shower after watching. That's how bad I felt. There's one called Chaos that really resonates to me to this day. That's just how vile it is.
Well,
and it's got Sylvester Stallone's son in it too.
Yeah, but Sylvester Stallone did porn before he did Rocky, so neither of them have made good choices early in their careers.
He did Death Race 2000, the Roger Corman one.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah, a lot of people do, but that's kind of one that's. I like that film. It's another 70s exploitation film, and it's David Carradine, and it's at his finest. But that remake of that one is actually really cool with Jason Statham.
Yeah,
because they revamped that to the modern age and getting inmates to participate in this race and how it's on pay-per-view and how, once again, the theme of society being glorified
it's just the Coliseum again.
Right, exactly. So it just continues that, which is...
So, you want to get into news?
Yes, let's do news.
So, Denis Villeneuve, he says he wants to make a silent movie one day.
Cool.
I like this.
Yes.
I wish The Wild Robot had been a silent movie.
I know I read this last night that he's doing some in-person screenings of Doom Part 2 in California this month. Yeah.
Cool.
Where he's going to do Q&As afterwards. Ooh. I would love to do a field trip and see that. But I know there's no way.
Yeah, we don't have the budget for that. So far, we're about $3,000 in the hole on this project. So.
Ouch.
He said, I love dialogue, but not always in cinema. I hope one day I will be able to make a film that will not use spoken language. I try as much as possible to use the power of images.
Well, the last silent film won Best Picture of the Year, The Artist.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said for that.
If there's anyone who can do it all through images, it's Denis Villeneuve. Yep. No doubt about it. I love Blade Runner 2049. I love it.
I do too.
It's so good. But yeah, he also said earlier this year, I don't remember movies because of a good line. I remember movies because of a strong image. I'm not interested in dialogue at all. Pure image and sound. That is the power of cinema, but it's something not obvious when you watch movies today. Movies have been corrupted by television. Which
that's very true.
Probably sounds highfalutin to some people, but I think it is absolutely true. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, that's one of the things about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. As much as I hate it, that image of her in the back of the car and him swinging the chainsaw around, that's an iconic image for a reason.
Right.
And there's no dialogue.
Right.
It sticks.
Just chainsaw.
Yeah, just chainsaw.
Yeah.
The loudest chainsaw known to man. I have my fingers in my ears. I was like, why is it so loud?
Well, what's more unnerving too at the beginning of that are the camera flashes and that sound.
Yeah. And I think that's the flash recharging.
Right.
Yeah.
That's more disturbing than the chainsaw noise, actually.
For sure.
And
the chainsaw was just louder.
Yeah. Tool used that in their last album at the beginning of the album.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It kind of sets the tone for that. It's really neat.
Yeah. I do want to see that.
Yeah.
Speaking of things people want to see, non-Joker Folie Deux could lose the studio $200 million.
And Warner Brothers is already in a hole this year, because outside of Beetlejuice, everything they've released this year is bombed.
Yeah, it's been a very bad year for Warner Brothers. I mean, they would be riding high off of Oppenheimer if they hadn't ticked off Christopher Nolan.
Yeah,
so that's on them.
Oppenheimer was last year.
Well, sure, but the profits on that would have helped them coast through this year just fine.
That's true, because you got to look at what we saw this summer from Warner Brothers. Unfortunately, the Mad Max one bombed.
Yep. Which is unfortunate because that is a very good movie.
And then Watchers really bombed.
Which is neither here nor there because it's a movie.
I actually liked Watchers.
I liked it, but I don't think it's great. I think it's interesting, and I love folklore. So for me, it was ooh, neat.
And I'm looking for they don't really have anything for the holidays because I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with Juror Number 2, which is Clint Eastwood's latest film, and Warner Brothers is his home. He will only do movies for Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
But I know it's limited on the first, but nobody has any idea of when it's expanding.
Oh.
So I don't know if it's not going to expand until next year or what's our film buyers don't even know. And they're waiting for somebody from Warner Brothers to get back to them and say what's going on with this movie because Clint Eastwood has to play Grand Avenue. That's without a doubt.
Yeah.
And the trailer for it looks really good.
I haven't seen the trailer, but I saw. Yeah, I need to catch up on most of Clint Eastwood's.
Clint Eastwood.
Nom. Yummy mahogany. But yeah, Clint Eastwood's back catalog.
Yeah, Warner Brothers needs something badly, and I don't know if Minecraft is going to do it for him next year either.
No, Man, that one's a real crapshoot though, because kids are dumb. They'll watch anything. Like it could go gangbusters simply because it's Minecraft, and I think that's what they're banking on. But at the same time, no one likes the trailer.
Awful. Right?
No one likes it. Like I haven't seen anyone be like, no, actually, I thought like that would be fun.
Drew did.
Oh well, I stand corrected. So yeah, it's man, that's a real, because like I know people are dumb enough to just go, it's a kids movie, whatever. I'll just shut the kids up for an hour and a half.
Right.
Like that's why you take children to the movies. It's not because they're learning any sort of important lessons. They're not paying attention.
From what I understand, it's short too. It's like an hour and 20 minutes.
Thank God. Because we're going to have to talk about it.
Yeah. Like Jared can't make a movie more than than an hour and a half.
I think he might just have ADHD. He can't focus for that long.
Okay. That explains Nacho Libre.
Yes, it does.
I hate to say that actually I like that movie.
I wish I did, but I just...
For just the pure silliness of it, that's why I like it.
I mean, I do like sometimes you wear stretchy pants.
Yes.
For fun.
It's for fun.
So Joker, though, Folie Deux, it's not going to be able to break even, we don't think, because it would have to do...
Not even with streaming.
Yeah, $450 million worldwide is what it would need to break even.
Not going to do that.
Nope. It's grossed $165 million after 2 weeks. It's no longer showing here, at the very least. The original movie earned $248 million in 3 days. So this is
because it wasn't a musical.
Yes. Warner Brothers, though, said Warner Brothers spokesperson said any estimates by anonymous insiders or rival executives are grossly wrong and continues a trend where rumor is reported as fact. The film continues to play in theatrical release, included with this week's opening in China, and will continue to earn revenue through its home viewing and ancillary run.
And even the Chinese are going to go, stupid Americans.
Well, we said that a little bit when we walked out. We were like, "Man, this is dumb. Stupid Americans." Yeah. It's man. I don't think that.
I'm curious what the damage is going to do to Todd Phillips' career and what he's going to be able to get as a director after this.
He's not getting $200 million again.
No,
for sure. Like, I don't know who thought that was. One, it's not necessary for the movie. Except for unless you're paying exorbitant fees.
Because we're still trying to figure out where that money went.
Right. Because
who's the accountant on that? Donald Trump?
Smile 2 is less than 30 million and looks just as good. So
yeah.
And they have giant crowds and all kinds of stuff. Like, look, blowing up a wall is expensive, but it's not $200 million expensive.
No.
Like,
there's guys in Jersey that can do it for less.
Yeah, there's guys in Jersey who do it for fun. Yeah. but I absolutely don't understand how they justified that because even if you
is there an accountant or two at Warner Brothers that got fired over this? I'm curious.
A man can dream. The first one theatrically did $1 billion. So, they're banking big on it.
Yeah, but once again, it wasn't a musical, and it was, even though it wasn't the typical Joker story, it was interesting, it was engaging,
sure,
and it was great to see the psychosis of that character.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to see a musical inside your head for the second one.
No.
No one.
I don't even necessarily think they had to not do any musical bits. They could have done some musical bits. But they just went on for so long.
Yeah.
And they didn't need to. And I'm sorry.
To the tune of 2 hours and 20 minutes.
I know. Like, I just would rather not.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even care enough to be angry about it.
Yeah.
And I think that the courtroom stuff was interesting and good. And if they had just done that route, if they just stuck to that.
Yeah.
And whatever. It doesn't matter. It didn't do well. Paul Schrader also didn't like that.
Yeah, I read that.
He said, I saw 10 or 15 minutes of it. I left, bought something, came back, saw another 10 minutes. That was enough. So he basically was like, yeah, I'm going to go shopping in the middle of this because I don't need this.
Yeah, Paul Schrader I like too. So
he made Taxi Driver, and that's like the impetus for this movie is to rip off Taxi Driver, right? Yeah, but is to rip off Taxi Driver and play off of those ideas, but within this alternate world. And he's like, nah, you can get it.
Or The one of his that I always like, and I still like to this day, is a movie called Light Sleeper that he made with William Dafoe and Dan Delaney. Is William Dafoe is a drug dealer in like the 90s in New York City.
But what about in the movie?
And it's kind of a dark side of humanity, but it's not gory. It's just an interesting dark film that I really like, that hardly anybody's ever even heard of it or seen it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, that's not a shock.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just was reading the rest of Paul Schrader's quote because director Martin Scorsese talked with Schrader about like doing a Taxi Driver sequel, and apparently Paul Schrader responded, "So we had dinner at Bob's restaurant, and Bob was talking about it. I said, wow, that's the worst effing idea I've ever heard. That character dies at the end of the movie or dies shortly thereafter. He's gone."
Yeah. No, that's how Taxi Driver ends.
You gotta love that there was a time where movies could just be done. That there was a time where
didn't
you could
have
be
to
like,
have a sequel.
that was the idea, and it doesn't have to be a franchise.
Right.
Everything's got to be a franchise now, and I know that's like a common internet complaint, but I think it does speak to something where we're like, I want a new story. I don't want you to drag out the story that could have been told once.
Well, Barbie's kind of flying in the face of that because there's no plans for a sequel. Greta Gerwig doesn't want to do another one. So I kind of give them all credit for not hopping on the bandwagon and immediately green lighting a sequel for that and going into production with another one.
Yeah.
They're just kind of letting it go. And
well, but are they? Because now Margot Robbie's production company is working on a Sims adaptation.
Yeah, but that's going to be different.
Sure, but there's gonna be pressure from the studio to do what they did with Barbie. So it could end up that that they just do a franchise of movies. It's like, take thing that's not real world, put it in real world, make a statement about feminism, put it back in fake world. Great. I don't know. I could be wrong, but like they're going to look at it and go follow.
I really have no rebuttal to that, because I don't think you're wrong.
That's shocking.
But I do give Warner Brothers credit for not jumping on the bandwagon to make another Barbie film.
Yeah. And Barbie's a huge franchise, like, just in general. And so, good on them for not doing that. But I think they maybe for once recognize that if they lost the talent that made that a huge thing and that person didn't want to come back, that forcing them to come back or trying to pay them enough to come back would not.
And that was Greta Gerwig. A lot of that was her direction. Yeah. Honestly, I tried to watch it and fell asleep. But
I just never tried to watch it. I don't have any pink clothes, so I wasn't allowed in.
I just don't see the need to actually watch the entire film.
Yeah,
but and that's just my own personal preferences. I just don't really care to see the entire thing.
Yeah,
and Oppenheimer was more my movie last summer, and I really I saw it once in theaters in IMAX, and I still need to watch it again. But
yeah, I need to go back and revisit Dunkirk, because I didn't get it the first time. But it was, I was
Dunkirk,
I know this is good, but I don't know what's happening.
Well, that's another one too. Like Denis Villeneuve says, there's very little dialogue in that film, which really.
You kind of have to know the story to be able to pick out where it's at. And so from a historical interest standpoint, it's like, oh, well, I'll go and look into that and learn more about it and stuff.
Right.
And then I can start to kind of piece it together. But then at the same time, it's like, well, if the movie doesn't kind of make sense on its own, is that a problem? I would say yes, generally, because most people probably aren't going to go pick up a book. But that's
always why that I said the movie The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen failed, because nobody reads anymore.
Sure, that movie's very goofy and I love it.
So do I.
I love it so much.
See, I knew I liked you for some reason.
There's so much about it that's so over the top and bombastic, and like some of the VFX work that they were doing in that movie is for 2000.
Cool
what was it? 2001.
Yeah,
it's such an incredibly well done VFX thing for 2001. The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
The buildings collapsing when they're driving that giant car out of. What was it, Venice? I don't remember. But they're driving out, and like that's a mix of some incredible miniature work, like that car, an actual miniature driving, and then also while they have real, miniature buildings collapsing, they also extend it out with VFX. It was the first time that had been done in that way, and it's a great example of people pulling together all of those filmmaking tools to try and make something.
Yeah.
But like people don't know who Nemo is anymore.
Or what the Nautilus, or
Yeah.
the picture of Dorian Gray or Dracula's widow, and
Alan Quartermain is definitely someone that you
or
might
even
not be
Moriarty.
Yeah, Moriarty. Yeah, but it's it's all these great literature people pulled together, and it's such an interesting idea. And I honestly think like the Jekyll and Hyde is like the best Hulk movie I've ever seen. You know, it's got some really good stuff. Is it goofy? Sure, it's 2001 goofy.
Yeah,
but I love that era of filmmaking for some reason.
Me too.
Like it just has there's a whimsy to it.
Yep.
You know, like I feel like there's a lot of movies that don't have whimsy that could use a little whimsy, And
of course, Alan Moore was, came out and condemned it immediately, but he came down and condemned anything of his that got converted to a film.
I think Alan Moore just he's playing both sides all the time, so he never loses. I'll sell it and then I'll come out and say it was bad, so that the people who like my stuff and buy my stuff can say, yes, it was bad. We get it. You're the creator. Hallelujah, praise you. And then he goes and sells it again and goes, yeah, you guys can do whatever you want. I'm gonna make money.
I just had a hard time believing that he didn't like V for Vendetta, because I really like that film.
I don't understand how it's any different from the comic. I've watched a video about the differences, because I like V for Vendetta too, but I watched and I was like, those differences don't matter.
Like the main Natalie Portman's character in the comic book is actually kind of a prostitute.
Yeah,
and they completely do away with that in the film. But is it necessary? No.
To make it palatable for an audience, and get that across, because the whole idea of it is very much. You think I'm a communist? I'm not. Just to be clear, but
the red flag behind you.
No. That red flag is just that's just a big flat pillow for someone from G-Force to come and take a nap on.
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I want actually Nicolas Cage to come sit on this big red pillow and take a nap. That's not my best G-Force work, but I'll try again next week.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I miss that era of filmmaking a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, Paul Schrader hated it. It's all
right. Yeah, Friends Before Coppola liked it.
That tells you everything you need to know.
Next story.
All right. Do you want to talk about the Wicked stuff?
Oh, yeah. Let's get to that.
Let's talk about this. The actress that plays Elphaba, who I'm going to make sure I've got her name here. Sorry. Cynthia Erivo, I believe is how it's pronounced. So,
sounds good to me.
So she's playing Elphaba in the upcoming Wicked movie, and there's a poster that is very well known for Wicked. So I've never seen Wicked. I don't care about musicals in general. I definitely don't care about Broadway musicals. That's personal preference. I know lots of people who love it, and I actually like, Defying Gravity is a great song. There's no denying it. It's a high flying it's great. But Cynthia Erivo is on the poster for this film because she's playing one of the main characters. Her eyes are showing, and she doesn't have red lipstick, which are the two main things from the Wicked poster. It's a graphic design thing, obviously,
right.
But it's in the original poster, the shadow covers her eyes, so you can't see Elphaba's eyes, and the lipstick is red and bright and vibrant, and it's very much like these are lips, And from a graphic design standpoint, it's very contrasty, it's very stark, it works really well. The poster that came out, you can see her eyes, and her lips are green. That's the big thing. So a couple of fans went online and said, well, that's not the poster we like. This is the poster. And they edit it so that the shadow from the hat falls on her eyes and you can't see her eyes anymore, falls into black, and put the red lipstick on her. They might have also done a little bit of warping to make her smile more like in the poster, because a
little bit, yeah, I've seen the poster,
yeah, and so there's a little bit more of a smile to it. She looks more shocked in the movie poster. This was always going to happen. If you change iconic imagery that people are familiar with and love, someone is going to do a fan edit. Everyone's got Photoshop. We've all been pirating it for 20 years. We all know how to do it. So, but she got very upset with this.
Oh,
Cynthia
that's
Erivo.
an understatement.
So, would you like me to read the quote?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, on her Instagram story, she said, "This is the wildest, most offensive thing I have seen. None of this is funny. None of it is cute. It degrades me. It degrades us." She continued, "The original poster is an illustration. I am a real-life human being who chose to look right down the barrel of the camera to you, the viewer, because without words, we communicate with our eyes." She said, our poster is an homage, not an imitation. To edit my face and hide my eyes is to erase me. And that is just deeply hurtful. First off, you're not a person. You're an actress. No, I'm kidding. Wow.
I think that was harsher than what you said after Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, I'm an actor. I get to say these things.
Oh, okay.
Well, it was. It's been a while. But anyway, I understand.
How full of yourself are you when you make statements like that, to be honest?
Yeah, it's very much, she said it degrades me, it degrades us. I don't know if she's talking about women, if she's talking about cast and crew, women, black people. I don't know what she's referencing there specifically.
I don't think anybody else does either.
But it very much, it feels like you're making a big deal. You're getting outraged about someone going, well, the poster looked like this. I can edit that. Because and I'm sure the fans who did it are like, well, they did it wrong. And that's, and look, it's an adaptation. It's not the same thing. It's right. Someone else's interpretation of the source material. And you're totally allowed to do that. But also, you can't be surprised when people are mad when you change things. People hate change. We're creatures of habit, all of us. And so, there's that. But like, you're angry about something. I don't think anyone put the shadow on the eyes of the poster and thought, that'll erase her. Like the intent.
No, they were just trying to make it look like the Broadway poster.
Yeah.
That's all that was.
Yeah, it was someone going, I'm resistant to change. Here's my fix of the poster. No one was sitting there trying to erase you. I haven't found anything online. No. I've looked into this. I haven't found anything online where people are like, well, we don't want to see her eyes because I don't want to know what she thinks because she's a woman. Or, I haven't seen any of that. I've seen just her getting mad about this and making it this. You blew it up. You Barbara Streisand did it. Like, no one would have thought anything about it. No, barely half the people in the world that would have seen this that have seen this poster would have ever come across the fan edit, except you totally went, hey, stop publishing pictures of my house. And everyone went, that's your house?
It's not affecting ticket sales, that's for sure.
No. But like, it's such a... She's right. The poster is an homage, not an imitation. She's not wrong about that part.
But how she's going about it is wrong.
It is it feels like a victim mentality. I'm a victim of this because you've erased me. It's like we put a shadow on your eyes because it looks like the poster we like. That's it. And you can absolutely look at something and go, oh, yeah, I guess that is what that would look like if they had chose to do something different with the poster. Or you can choose to go, well, I chose to look down the camera and like it's an important choice. And look, as an actor, you make a lot of choices that are important to you and the character and how you're doing things like that. But like death of the artist, man, you don't get to hold on to that once you release it.
Right.
You just don't.
It's free for the world to do whatever they want with.
Like, I would love it if I could, run around and tell everyone exactly what I mean by every single shot I choose in the stuff I make. But I can't.
So, I wish I could still have cut out the emo Spider-Man thing out of Spider-Man 3 before showing it to the public.
The fact that you literally could have taken scissors and done it, too, is very funny to me.
I contemplated it. Because I saw it before anybody, and I was like, oh, okay, if I took this out, nobody's going to know.
Yeah. The funny part is, for me, I still, when I'm feeling good about myself, the song from the background of that scene plays in my head. Those were formative years for me, man.
Okay. I understand.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't want to dog on this woman. I don't want to.
I don't
want to attack her
because the performance in this from her looks really good.
She does. Yeah.
Outside of it being a musical, which 2 hours and 40 minutes. I'm going to need to take something to stay with. Like, I'm going to need a 6-pack of energy drinks before going into that thing.
I have an idea.
Okay.
You want to get a TENS unit?
What's that?
Okay, so those TENS units, it's a little thing where you put pads on your skin and it like shocks the muscle to like make it contract and it kind of, when you have really sore muscles or like muscles that are not releasing properly, this helps it. And so I once dislocated a rib.
So we're doing electric shock to stay awake to this?
Yes, like every time we get annoyed by what's happening on screen, we get to shock the other guy.
It's going to make for an interesting viewing. I give you that.
Absolutely. Like you have to be honest with it. You have to legitimately be like, I'm in pain right now watching this. Well,
that's going to be anytime Ariana Grande is on screen.
It would be worse for me than it would for you. But I mean, if we can't rely on the movie to keep our interest, we got to find something stupid to do.
No, I can't say that it's not going to hold our interest. It's just that the musical numbers are probably going to get a little bit long-winded for us.
Yeah, and I think I have more.
We'll take Drew along for that screening too. Yeah. Like he'll make it interesting. Guaranteed.
I'll have more leniency for something that's intended to be a musical because it's got musical numbers written for it. But when something's Joker. Just like, hey, I've got a whole bunch of songs about being crazy. You want to hear them all in their entire length for no reason? All right, let me put on my my record player and get that going. Here's a man in a red suit. He's gonna dance. Wait for it. It's not done. He's still dancing. All right. Nope. He's still going. Okay. Like, that's the whole movie.
Yeah.
This one, at least, like the song. One of the things about musicals, a good musical will have music and songs that propel the plot. Joker, it stops for the music.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the big thing.
Okay.
Also, though, it'll be very annoying. I'm not gonna lie. Musicals are not for me.
We're gonna have to do that podcast that week in like 2 parts, because there's no way we can sit like 6 hours total and watch Gladiator and that back to back.
Yeah, I know. Which one do we want to do first?
Gladiator.
Yeah.
We'll do what we want to do before we do what we have to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, if we're gonna be cursed to watch these movies, then we at the very least get to choose the order in which we do it.
Yeah, because the week before that, we're seeing Red 1 now, which I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh, that's right, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know what, though? It'll be fun to pick apart a rock movie again.
Yeah, just from the trailer, it looks like it's going to be screaming to be made fun of.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I look, like I said, no one should go and harass this woman over what she said or anything like that. But I would say that from a person to person standpoint, if you draw more attention to the thing that you're angry about, more people are going to pile on the internet. You've just made this worse for yourself. And before I had no opinion on you as a person. Now I do, and my first real, my first real exposure to you is that you feel like a victim because someone made an edit to a poster. It's still your face. No one erased you. And so that makes me a little bit like, okay.
Yeah.
It's another one of those situations.
It could be worse.
It could. Yeah. She could be Ariana Grande. Who very famously walked into a donut store in Texas, licked donuts, put them back, and said, "I hate America."
Did she?
Yes, that's a real thing. I couldn't believe it either when I saw it, but it's true.
She better not have gone into Round Rock Donuts and did that.
No, thankfully she didn't defile our Texas Capitol, the Round Rock Donut shop.
Yes.
But
that place is awesome. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Are you kidding me? A warm Round Rock donut?
Heaven in a box.
You could die right there and be happy. Yep.
I agree.
All right, well, let's wrap this up. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We hope that you enjoyed this as much as we enjoy making it. Yes. And yeah, absolutely. Check out all of our social media at Grand Review Pod. Let us know what you thought. We want to know what people thought. I'm going to start putting up polls for good, bad, great, or terrible, and people can kind of let us know what they thought about movies. Let us know what you think about Smile 2 and Joker Folie.
Yeah, we already know what people think. I don't think that's necessary at this point.
I think at this point, no one thinks anything about it,
right?
Except us, because we're so obsessed with how weird it was that they made it. If you have any insight into how exactly they did money laundering through Joker, please let us know. I'd love to know the details. We won't have to talk about it on the show. I just want to know. That's all.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for listening as always.
We'll see you at the movies.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.